We are happy to inform you of the following changes that were done on the time entries functionality. The first change relates to the time entry approvals. Let's show you where that is set. Click on the administration menu item, and from the administration list page, click on the system configuration. On the configuration edit page, you will see this setting that relates to the time entry approvals. As you can see, it's currently enabled. Click back on the home menu item, and from the home page view, click on the My Time Entries icon. You will see that I'm logged in as Harry Adams, the PPO administrator, for the purpose of this video. So now that the time entry approvals are enabled, Harry will see an approval request option as well as an approval status field for each time entry. So the opposite is also true should the time entry approvals be disabled within the system configuration, then Harry will not see the approval request or status fields visible. Now to send the time entry record for approval, Harry will select the approval request checkbox, and then after submission, the status fields of the time entry will be changed to ready. With the new change on the time entry approvals, a select all and an unselect all icon are now visible, thus ensuring that Harry doesn't have to manually select every time entry record for approval, but can select them all and submit them all at once for approval. The second change done on the time entries relates to whether the default value of a time entry record should be set to billable. This is also set up within the system configuration. Now let's quickly show you that setting. Click back on the administration menu item, and from the administration list page, click on the system configuration. Here's the setting that relates to the billable value being selected by default. Now, some organizations bill the majority of their time in which it would make sense for the billable field to be set to true. And other organizations bill very little or none of their costs and would prefer the billable field to be false by default. So now you have the flexibility in either specifying it globally or not. Now, click back on the home menu item and then select the My Time Entries icon. You will thus see that the billable checkbox is selected by default on those time entry records. Added to the billable option now available in the system configuration is the user now also has the ability to override the global default setting by setting their user preferences. To set this up, click back on the home menu item and then click on the My Preferences icon. Uncheck the default billable value for time entries checkbox and don't forget to submit. Now click back on the home menu item and then access the My Time Entries again. Manually add another item to a project and you will then see that the user preference will take effect on the newly added item and not on items that were already submitted previously. You will now thus notice that for the new item that was added, the default billable value is set to false, even if it is set as true within the system configuration. This shows that the user's preferences can override what was initially set up by the administrator within the system configuration. The last change and the third change relates to the record shown on the time entries page. Now currently the default items shown on the time entries page are all the touched or updated items during the week and the items you have already booked time to. Now, previously there was no way to populate the time entries page by any other mechanism than manually adding projects and time entry records. Now, the time entries page has two added filters on the top. The first filter is disabled and will by default still show the items that time was booked against for the current week. This second filter can be used to select additional items to show on the time entries maintenance page. Now, the first value is items are updated this week, which is selected by default and which will show you all the items you updated this week. The next value shows you items I booked time to last week, which if selected will show you the items that time was booked to in the previous week. However, if the item with the same entity and activity was already shown on the time entries maintenance page, then this item will be excluded. The last value is a blank value, which indicates that no additional entries are shown except for the items that time was booked to this week. We hope you find these new time entry functionalities useful, and should you require any additional information about this, please feel free to access our support portal.
Learn more about PPO today by visiting us at projectportfoliooffice.com. PPO, your award-winning project management solution.